Rescue operations continue at site of collapsed building in Lagos State. Federal government assures of improved security to counter violence in Plateau State. Accord presents certificate of return to Anambra State governorship candidate. Hello and welcome to the later evening news at 11 on NTA News 24. We're reaching you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. My name is Justin Bemuni. Now we start from Lagos, where a two-story building at Ojodu Berger has collapsed. And Larry Beleye, who was at the scene of the havoc, has an update.
Residents of Ometa Street, Ojodu are still grappling with the aftermath of the collapse of the two-story building that housed the neighborhood's popular bar and restaurant. Search and rescue operations commenced immediately after first responders residing in the area alerted authorities around 9 o'clock in the morning of the building collapse. So far, 22 persons have been rescued from the rubble alive and have been taken to hospital, while there are 2 mortalities.
All the top echelon that are important in managing emergency of Lagos State are on the ground. And with this combined effort, we divided the disaster scene into the 4 quadrants. 2 quadrants are vulnerable, where we could suspect that people could be in there. And that 2 quadrants, we are able to rescue 5 people alive.
Stakeholding heads of agencies frowned at some practices that could make incidents of building collapse rear its ugly head again in the state.
So this building behind me that collapsed today has been abandoned for over 15 years. There has not been any construction activity on this site for the past 15 years. But what is wrong, which is what we've been trying to tell Lagosians, is do not try to inhabit uncompleted properties.
Tell our people once again, in the law guarding the building control, every building is supposed to be RIAS certified every 5 years to be sure that the structures are well protected.
Neighbors who witnessed the havoc have expressed shock at the sad development. Rescue operations are still ongoing as concerted emergency and disaster mitigating agencies are working to rescue more survivors. In Lagos, Larry Beleye, NTA News.
And now to security, where Minister of Defense Abubakar Badaru says more security architecture will be put in place to check the ongoing recurring crisis in Irigwe community and other parts of Plateau State. He stated this during his visit to Bassa local government area of Plateau State, and Ijoma Ozemena has details.
The Minister of Defense, in company of his colleague in the Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, General Officer Commanding 3 Division, and other top military officers, was in Kwao District of Bassa local government for an on-the-spot assessment of the communities and commensurate with the victims over the killing of innocent citizens. While there, the minister interacted with the people who expressed their concern over the lingering attacks that have crippled the socio-economic development of the people for over 2 decades. After listening to all stakeholders, the minister assures of government's efforts at tackling the security challenges and end recurrent crises in the state.
We must find the perpetrators of this evil and let them face justice. And the security agencies are investigating seriously, and we are on the trail, and God's willing, we'll get to the root of it, and the perpetrators will be apprehended and they will face justice.
Similarly, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction urges citizens to synergize with relevant authorities towards resolving the root causes of the crisis.
We are providing 1,000 hectares of land right inside the local government here to ensure that we cultivate the land for them. We've already acquired the land, and they know the land already. And we've already signed an MOU with them before I left and came over this today. And we are cultivating and ensuring that for every households, each household will be given half a hectare.
Meanwhile, relief materials are on ground to be distributed to survivors of the attacks in Bassa to cushion their sufferings. In Jos, Ijoma Ozemena, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR, has condemned resurgence of attacks in Bassa, Bokos and Riyom local government areas of Plateau State, leading to deaths of innocent residents, which it described as callous. In a statement signed by the Institute's president, Dr. Ike Neleaku, the Institute is saddened that a once peaceful state has turned into a killing field where no value is attached to the sanctity of human life. He pointed out that the report of the summit, titled Rebooting Nigeria 2.0, was made available to relevant arms of government, calling on governments across the country to take advantage of the practical recommendations and solutions contained in the report. While commiserating with the government and people of Plateau State, especially families who lost their loved ones, NIPR urged security agencies to rise to the occasion and intensify efforts towards bringing the perpetrators of the murderous acts to book. NIPR also called for more coordinated joint efforts among various stakeholders, including communities, security operatives and relevant agencies of government, to forestall further bloodletting. And now from the confluent state, Kogi State government has emphasized that the rigorous security operations are carried out by a combined team of security agencies in identified security flashpoints within Mopamoro, Kaba, Bunu, Ijumu and Lokoja local government areas are parts of a sustained and strategic onslaught against criminal elements threatening the peace and security of the state. A statement by the State Commissioner for Information and Communications, Kingsley Fanwo, clarifies that the security forces during the operations engaged bandits and other criminal elements in a fierce exchange of gunfire, resulting in significant disruption of their activities, and commends the gallantry, professionalism and sacrifice of security personnel whose bravery led to the successful neutralization of several threats within the area. The Commissioner also states that two operatives paid the ultimate price and extends the state government's condolences to the families, friends and colleagues of these fallen heroes. He also says the state government has taken up the medical bills of the injured operatives. He says Governor Usman Ahmed Ododo is resolute in ensuring security of everyone in the state. Mr. Fanwo equally expresses the state's profound appreciation to the President Bola Tinubu for his special commitment to keeping Kogi and Nigeria safe. Now, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has successfully rehabilitated more than 22,000 drug addicts across the country within the past 4 years. NDLEA Chairman and Chief Executive, retired Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, disclosed this at the inauguration of a rehabilitation center and 2 residential blocks for staff in Kano. Habibu Hussaini filed in the report to be presented.
The federal government, through the renewed hope agenda of the president, is committed to rid the country of drug and psychotropic substance abuse. To achieve this, the agency commits resources to establish drug rehabilitation centers and residential facilities in some selected commands, aiming to boost officers' morale and support the fight against drug abuse. Kano State, with the second highest number of drug addicts in the country, is among the beneficiaries of these projects, which the agency's chairman inaugurated.
17% prevalence between the ages of 15 and 64 in Kano State, second after Lagos. 1 in 8 persons in Kano State use drugs, over 1 million. Therefore, we have to intensify efforts in the war against drug abuse advocacy, and as well face the task of counseling and rehabilitation.
With this commitment, the NDLEA hopes to record a significant reduction in drug addiction and trafficking nationwide.
Analysts have again stressed the need for renewed efforts to ensure robust global partnerships and sustainable growth, vital for Nigeria's interests in the rapidly changing global economy. While interacting with Yusuf Tuga, Minister of Foreign Affairs, in a forum organized in Abuja, he also outlined the country's strategy to deepen engagement with global partners. Garba Natala reports.
With political powers taking strategic positions steered by U.S. tariffs, emerging AI technology, terrorism, geopolitical tensions and climate change, among other uncertainties, negatively impacting the fortunes of the African continent, participants here say Nigeria must also strategically align its position in conducting its foreign policy.
Define our allies within the international system. Let's begin to look at those countries that emerge at the same time as we did. Let's focus on BRICS, for example. Let's focus on emerging and contending world powers, for example.
If we continue to dilly-dally between satisfying our traditional allies that can no longer add any value to us and striking new relationships that are capable of assisting us, then we have a problem at our hand because we'll be constrained by what? Friendship.
Yusuf Tuga, engaged interactively by concerned Nigerians, underscores the need for continuous diplomacy.
As global power shifts towards multipolarity, Nigeria must assert greater strategic autonomy in its international engagements. We're strengthening our bilateral relations with emerging powers such as China, India, Brazil, while maintaining constructive partnerships with the United States, European Union, and traditional allies. We aim to ensure that Nigeria is not merely a passive actor in global affairs, but an active shaper of outcomes that align with our national interests.
To prevent tensions, the foreign minister pointed out 4 pillars that define the country's foreign policy and advocated for Africa-led solutions to overcoming current realities. The participants include diplomats, the academia, policymakers, businessmen and security experts who believe the present 4D foreign policy thrust is in the right direction. However, they say engagement must be strategic to national concerns. In Abuja, Garba Muhammad Natala, NTA News.
Now, Kaduna State government is making strides in strengthening its primary health care system, focusing on sustainable financing and bolstering the health workforce to ensure equitable access and improved health outcomes for all residents. This is the result of stakeholders, including development partners, at a policy dialogue on community health put together by Nigeria Health Watch in Kaduna. Haruna Mohammed reports.
Healthcare professionals and financial experts, including the World Health Organization, converged under the auspices of Health Watch Nigeria. On the table is advancing sustainable financing and workforce capacity for equitable primary healthcare delivery for improved outcome in Kaduna. With a teeming population of more than 10 million people, Kaduna is one among few states who have reached the 15% budget allocation in the health sector. During 2 panel sittings, panelists explored strategies for addressing workforce challenges in primary healthcare and advancing sustainable financing for equitable healthcare delivery across the state and the nation at large. The Commissioner for Health, Kaduna State Representative, opined the shift in the policy of the state government with the recent approval for the recruitment of more than 1,000 healthcare personnel in the state, especially for hard-to-reach areas.
The idea is to review upwards the rural allowance that will be given to healthcare workers that are posted to these rural communities to ensure that it compensates them. Secondly, the recent upscaled standardized model for upgrading primary healthcare facilities and health centers and health facilities in the state, whether secondary or otherwise, includes state-of-the-art accommodation for the personnel.
We've had very clear call to actions from this. An example is the need for cash planning, the need to ensure that resources are prioritized, and to leverage digital and data for all of these, for budget performance tracking and implementation.
A major takeaway: policy shift goes beyond discussions to actions by stakeholders. The spirit exhibited by the Kaduna State government is that of shared accountability and inclusive decision-making for a better health sector in the state. I'm Haruna Mohammed, NTA News.
This is the late evening news at 11 on NTA News 24. We now take a break. More stories when we return. To stay with us. Welcome back. Now, ahead of the 8th November 2025 Anambra State governorship election, the court candidate Chidi Onyeze has received his certificate of return for his victory in the party's primaries on 8th April 2025 in Awka, Anambra State. Accompanied by party supporters in Anambra State, including the state chairman, Prince Batho Igwedibia, his campaign director general Uju Izuako, Sir Onyeze, received the certificate of return from the national chairman of the party, Barrister Maxwell Mbudem. Now, the Tinubu Shettima Ambassadors Support Group has decried outright abandonment by critical stakeholders of the ruling All Progressives Congress-led administration, despite her notable contributions, participation, campaigns and prayers, which was a critical part of the party's landslide victory in the 2023 general election. With its structure cutting across the 774 local government areas in Nigeria, the group at a press briefing aired its displeasure, saying the Tinubu Shettima ambassadors are yet to be considered for an appropriate placement in the scheme of things. Having commended the Tinubu Shettima-led administration over its reforms within the last 22 months, the group, as a matter of justice and fairness, implored President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to consider the Tinubu Shettima ambassadors in its series of appointments, as this will not only be a reward for good, but an encouragement of hard work.
We appeal to the leadership of our great party, led by His Excellency Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, OFR, to reorientate the current appointees that are not politically rooted, especially those that appointed as technocrats from overseas, to give back to the party members in their various states and local government area by attaching at least one genuine support group to their MDAs to motivate the party members across the country.
Now, the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, has unveiled 3 innovative digital platforms: the PLAC Builds Track, the PLAC Legislative Agenda Tracker, and the PLAC Legislative Repository. The tools aimed at improving access to legislative information and fostering a more informed and participatory democracy. With the launch of these tools, PLAC is reinforcing its commitment to building a transparent and accountable legislative system.
This is very much in our mind that it enables both the National Assembly to see how it is responding to demands of citizens, but also to the promises that it has made in its legislative agenda. Because it's 4 years, but 4 years comes and goes really quickly. In a couple of days, May 29th for the executive, but also June 12th or 13th, it will be mid-term for the current government. And the legislature, of course, will be responding to the question, how well have you done in 2 years? And how much more time do you have to deliver on all of the promises that you have made?
PLAC called for the utilization of the tools in promoting legislative openness and accountability. You're watching the latest of the news at 11 on NTN News 24. Here is a recap of our major stories. Rescue operations continue at site of collapsed building, Lagos State. Federal government assures of improved security to counter violence in Plateau State. Accord presents certificate of return to Anambra State governorship candidate. Now, Vice President Kashim Shettima has described as profound loss the passing of the longest-serving traditional title holder in the Kano Emirate, late Galadiman Kano Abbas Sanusi. During a condolence visit to the late Galadima's residence in Kano, the Vice President urged the bereaved family, Kano Emirate, the government, and people of the state to find comfort in the knowledge that Abbas Sanusi lived and the legacy left behind for future generations. Abdullahi Mustafa has a report.
On arrival at Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, Vice President Kashim Shettima was received by Kano State Governor Abubakar Yusuf and other top government officials. At the residence of the late Galadima, the Vice President described the deceased as a father figure and a true patriot who lived a fulfilled life and left behind a lasting legacy for future generations. Shettima noted that the late Galadima, who held various traditional titles for 66 years, was a towering figure whose passing represents a significant loss to the nation. He called on leaders across the country to rise above political differences and prioritize serving the people, especially in addressing the nation's most pressing challenges. Governor Abubakar Yusuf and Sanusi Abbas Sanusi, who spoke on behalf of the bereaved family, expressed gratitude to the Vice President for his visit and for standing with them in their time of grief. In Kano, Abdullahi Mustafa, NTA News.
And also, Vice President Kashim Shettima has paid a condolence visit to the family of late Dr. Idris Abdulaziz Dutsen Tanshi in Bauchi town over the death of the renowned Islamic cleric. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibila reports that at the family house of the late Sheikh, Vice President Kashim Shettima urged the family to accept the will of Allah. He urged the followers of the cleric and all Nigerians to emulate the good works of the late Sheikh Idris Abdulaziz, urging the Bauchi state government and well-to-do citizens of the state to support the family to show appreciation on his legacies. Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed and Malam Sagir Adamu appreciated Vice President Shettima for finding time out of his tight schedules to personally condole with the family and the state. And this is where we end the news on NTA News 24. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Justin Bemunyi, and I say do have a good night rest.